2 months ago to 3 months ago.
Both of you said you don't think police are treated fairly in Portland. Why?
Social media, the press, City Hall, I mean, the presumption of guilt.
Can you be more specific?
Yeah, let's look at the shooting over by Red Lion. A police officer shoots a man suffering from mental crisis. Gets reported on Twitter that a black person was shot. No, it was a black police officer shooting a white male. And the police officer was protecting 3 fire employees behind him. That's not what gets tweeted. That's not what immediately gets reported. That's not what just gets blown all over the city. And we have a riot on our hands, 45 minutes later. And it's so.
Did anyone report that particular tweet you're talking about, or was that just a rando on Twitter tweeting that?
Are you asking me, did a reporter in that case amplify what was tweeted? Don't know. In that specific situation, I recall the tweet and I recall how it blew up, and that we had a small riot 45 minutes later. Dead wrong, factually dead wrong.
Why don't you think they're treated fairly?
So one of the things that when you sit on the citizen review committee, you hear both the good and the bad. You hear complaints against the police bureau, and you know that sometimes there's individuals out there that overstep their authority. You also sit on these police review boards where you understand that there's people out there that are harming community members, that are killing people, raping people, all kinds of horrible things. Some of these cases that I've reviewed are ones that unfortunately keep me up at night, because there's bad people out there, but there's also police that go out there and solve these murders, prevent these crimes walking around, and address these issues as they're happening. And you gotta acknowledge the good, and you have to acknowledge the bad. Right now, whether it's social media or perceptions or whatever it is, we have, I think, an acknowledgement of a lot of the bad, rightfully so. We need to make sure that there's accountability, that there's oversight, but there's also a lot of the good. And what we're seeing right now is we're throwing out, in many ways, the baby with the bathwater, because we're fearing so much the bad. We're not incentivizing the good, and we can't solve the crisis that we're having in homicides and crime here without ensuring that we make sure that we have good police, that we encourage good police members to do their job adequately.
Is the police bureau wasting any resources right now, and if so, where?
I have no idea.
Do you want to respond to some of this about whether or not cops are treated fairly in Portland and the perception of them being treated unfairly by your opponents?
Well, the DOJ is still here because clearly we still have problems in the police department. I think as a rule, police are just always given the benefit of the doubt. And I don't think that has changed much, even with the tens of thousands of people taken to the street demanding police accountability back in 2020. People still want an accountable police force. But I think even today, the assumption is police got it right. But if you look at the training materials that Portland Police continue to use, and people got a bit upset about like the 20-something slide, but if you look at all the slides in their training material, all the bad people were black and brown, and all the good people were white. And I went to a police training in DC with the Weed and Seed program over 30 years ago, and all the good people were white and all the bad people were black and brown. Remember, do you know what I'm talking about, that slide that everybody was freaked out about, the hippie looking guy? But the whole slide deck, if you went back and looked at the whole thing, it is the narrative that if we're still doing this 30 years later, training police in this subconscious manner to be on the lookout for brown and black people, then clearly we have not changed the culture of policing.
Okay.
Are there good people in policing? Yes. But the culture itself has been a culture that has not had oversight and has actually refused oversight. And most people have not held them accountable. And I've been doing this.
We gotta move on
again,
to another.
Like 12 police chiefs and 6 mayors.
Right, but we're gonna move on
I
to.
get you. I understand. No